Okay, so let's have a talk about the harmonic series. The harmonic series gets its name from the world of music, where a note can have overtones or harmonics associated with it. And you may be able to relate to this if you are a guitar player. When you play harmonics on an acoustic guitar, the guitar produces almost these bell-like sounds, and really talented folk guitarists like Tommy Emmanuel use these to great effect in their compositions. And I might even include a link in the description of a song that he plays that incorporates harmonics. But to illustrate this, let's say that you have a guitar string. So here's a very simple guitar string. When you pluck the guitar string, it's going to have this sort of waveform. And that's very rough and exaggerated, but you get the picture. So the guitar string will vibrate up and down from its stationary position like so. This is called the fundamental waveform, or the first harmonic. And it's a standing wave. The second harmonic is also a standing wave, but it has a wavelength that is half of that of the fundamental waveform. So let's illustrate that. So the second harmonic looks something like this. There's a node halfway along the string, and as you can see, the wavelength is half that of the fundamental waveform. The third harmonic, and these are all standing waves by the way, is 1/3 of the wavelength of the fundamental, and it looks something like this. First note is 1/3 of the way along the string, and you guessed it, the fourth harmonic is 1/4 of the wavelength, with the first node being at 1/4 distance, and the fifth, and so on and so forth. Each of these harmonics are decreasing in amplitude, so they'll get quieter and quieter and quieter. But let's write the fractions associated with the harmonics. So we have 1/2 for the second harmonic, 1/3 for the third harmonic, 1/4 for the fourth harmonic, 1/5 for the fifth harmonic, and if we put them in a sequence called H, we get 1, 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, so on and so forth to however many you like. So this is what we call a harmonic sequence. And when we add up this infinite sequence, we get the harmonic series. So we have the sum from n equals 1 to infinity of 1/n, which equals 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 1/4 plus so on and so forth. We call this the harmonic series. But in this video, we're going to show that the harmonic series is a divergent series. So the harmonic series is divergent because we can add up as many terms as we like in the harmonic series, and we won't be able to reach a limit. But how can that be? Because if we apply the test for divergence, shorthand div test, when we take the limit from n to infinity of 1/n, of course the limit is equal to 0, so it passes the test for divergence. But this only means that the series might be convergent. Alright, so let's consider a series that doesn't pass the divergence test. Let's consider the sequence 1 and 1/2, 1/2, 1/2, 1/2, and the rest is just going to be 1/2s to however many terms you like. So it's obvious here that the divergence test, the limit of the terms from n equals n to infinity of a sub n is equal to 1/2, which is not equal to 0. So it's definitely a divergent series, because you can add up as many halves as you like and get a number as large as you like. But what we're going to do is compare this to the harmonic series. Let's now add up the first 4 terms in the harmonic series. So we have S4, the partial sum to the fourth term, which is 1 plus 1/2 plus a third plus 1/4. And I'm going to write this expression again just below. 1 plus a half plus 1/3 plus 1/4. Now if I change this 1/3 term on the second line to 1/4, let's compare which sum is greater. So it's obvious that the first sum, which is the fourth partial sum of the harmonic series, is greater than the second sum because we've changed the third term to be less than that of the original third term. We can group this together because this equals a half. So here we can say that S4 is greater than 1 plus a half plus a half. So S4 is greater than 1 plus 2 halves. So it's a weird way of putting it, but this will become clearer as we go along. Let's now consider the eighth partial sum. So S sub 8. So we'll add 1/5 plus 1/6 plus 1/7 plus 1/8. On our second row, let's copy these numbers down as well. So 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/6 plus 1/7 plus an eighth. What I'm going to do now is to change this 1/7 to 1/8. Let's change this 1/6 to 1/8 as well, and this 1/5 to 1/8 as well. And because each of these terms, the 1/5 or the 1/6 and the 1/7 in the eighth partial sum, is larger than the corresponding 1/8 in the line below, then it follows that the eighth partial sum is greater than the sum below. And grouping these terms, grouping these four 1/8s, we also get 1/2. So we have then S sub 8 is greater than 1 plus 3 halves. So 1 plus a half plus a half plus a half. So 1 plus 3 halves. And if you want, we can keep doing this comparison for the 16th partial sum, or the 32nd partial sum, or the 64th partial sum. So in general, comparing these two series, we have S sub 2 to the power of n is greater than 1 plus n halves. So for S sub 16, n would equal 4, and that's going to be greater than 1 plus 4 halves. So as we stated before, we can add up as many halves as we like, but that sum is just going to get larger and larger and larger and not reach a limit. But we compare that to the harmonic series, which is ever slowing down. The numbers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but it's always going to be greater than a half plus a half plus a half plus a half plus a half. And that's why the harmonic series is divergent. So this comparison test here has been credited to a mathematician called Nicole Oresme. I hope I haven't butchered her name. I'm sorry if I have. Around the year 1350. And you can look that up in Wikipedia for yourself. It was a long time ago. Now, if you're not convinced, because this may not be the most intuitive demonstration or proof, let's have a look at it another way. So here I have two curves. The cyan curve is the function 1 on x. The orange curve is its integral, log of x. Now the area under the curve from x greater than 1, this area here, the area under the curve 1 on x, as a function of x is equal to log of x. So even though this curve 1 on x is slowing down and asymptoting towards 0, there is no limit to the area under the curve, because the limit as x approaches infinity of the log of x doesn't exist. Now if we put the terms of the harmonic series on the curve, so we have 1 at x equals 1, 1/2 here, 1/3 here, 1/4 here, and so on and so forth. If we take the partial sums at each integer value of x, so we have s1 equals 1, at 2 we have S2 equals 1.5. S3 approximately equals 1.83. S4 is approximately equal to 2.08. And the fifth partial sum, S5, equals about 2.28. What we're really showing here is that plotting the partial sums of the harmonic series, we are representing a form of the log function. And if we plot enough terms, we can show that the partial sum of the harmonic series at term n is equal to the log of n plus 0.577. So in a way, with the harmonic function and plotting its partial sums, we are finding the integral, or finding the area under the curve from 1 to the term n, with n approaching infinity, of the curve 1 on x, and we're integrating with respect to x. And that's actually a good segue onto our next video, which will be the integral test. So stay tuned for that one. That'll do it for this video. If it has helped you, please like it, share it with all your classmates, subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, suggestions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Best of luck with your studies, and we'll see you on the next one.